Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you are back. We'll look at Mark chapter 2, verse 23 through 28. The Word of God says, on Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and his disciples walked along. They began to pick some heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He answered, this is Jesus, "Have you ever read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for men, not men for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." I remember listening and watching an interview with Samuel Truett Cathy, and some of you know him, and he's the founder of Chick-fil-A. Someone asked him why he closed on Sundays. I mean, he could make a lot more money, right? I mean, the cash flows on Sunday if he stayed open. And his answer struck me. I was quite young at the time. He wanted his employees to have rest, to build that rest into their lives. Because for 6 days God worked, and on the seventh day he rested. And he told his workers to do the same. A pause written into their lives. Rest serve as a boundary in life. And I think that's what's happening in Mark chapter 2. Jesus and his disciples are walking through some field on the Sabbath. There's no crowd, no public teaching at this moment. Just walking. And as they go through the field, the disciples pluck a few heads of grain, probably rubbing them between their fingers to snack on. It wasn't theft, it wasn't labor, it was something like grabbing a handful of trail mix while you hike. But the Pharisees didn't see it that way. Because in verse 24, it says, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" Did you notice that? Not immoral, not wicked, unlawful, according to them and their traditions anyway. They weren't upset over sin. They weren't upset over someone ignoring the poor. They were upset over someone ignoring the system they built around a good command. They had taken the day of rest and burdened it, loaded with pressure. I mean, there's a fan, the details, rules stacked on rules. What started as a gift from God for people to rest had become a burden people couldn't carry. And Jesus doesn't ignore this matter. Sabbath is important. And in dealing with this, he brings up a story they all knew. David eating the sacred bread when he was on the run. It was reserved for priests, and yet David wasn't condemned. Why? Because human need took precedence over made up religious details. Mercy over ritual. Then Jesus says something that should have, I think, broken their whole system open. Verse 27, he says, the Sabbath was made for men, not men for the Sabbath. See, these Pharisees had Sabbath backwards. The Sabbath wasn't designed to put more burden on people. In fact, the Sabbath was designed to free them. A pause in their lives so their body could rest, their soul can reset and connect with God, reminding them life is more than productivity. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He closes with a line that would have left the Pharisees speechless. The Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. He wasn't just interpreting what Sabbath is. He was claiming authority over it. So what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? What does it mean for us? It means you don't have to earn your way into rest. It's not something you have to unlock by working harder. Rest is part of God's design, and not just physical rest, but spiritual and soulful rest. But many of us are like the Pharisees. We measure faithfulness by rules that we've made up or add on to what God had said. We grind through Sunday, or worse, we show up to worship while carrying a dozen invisible checklists that we want to complete. And our mind is bombarded by that. It's like giving someone a vacation and then handing them a spreadsheet to fill out. That's not rest. That's performance and productivity in disguise. See, Jesus invites us to something better. Sabbath isn't about, checking out. It's about checking in to the grace of God. Sitting down, letting go, remembering that you're not what you accomplish. You're more than what you produce. You're not defined by your pace and hurriedness. The Sabbath tells the truth. We forget all week that God is in control and we are not. That his love holds steadfastly when our work stops. So rest, not as a rule, but as a response to the grace of God. Let Jesus be the Lord of your rest. No wonder God has commanded Sabbath, because we must learn to measure our worth based on who we are in God through Jesus Christ, not based on what my paycheck is or what I produce. I hope you find rest today, and especially on the Sabbath with your community each week, and connect with God, and continue to remind yourself that through Christ you are a child of God, loved by God, not because of what you have done or what you do, but because of what Christ has done. God bless you, my friends. If you have not clicked that like button, please help us out. Do that. Share so others can find us, and then be blessed by what we're sharing every morning. And then subscribe if you want these videos right away. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.